Welcome back to the garden again, everybody. My name is Brandon, a gardener growing things in Zone 9B, Southeast Texas, just south of Houston. And I've been having trouble getting any YouTube videos started, but I do want to post regularly. So today we're going to have another ADHD random run around garden chat showing things that I'm doing and talking about a few things that I wish I was able to make focused videos on, but again, ADHD. So today I want to try to focus in a little bit on this plant here and talk about what's on my mind in regards to it. So this here is the plant in question, and it is a bit entangled in everything, which is part of the reason that I wanted to, give a little bit of a soft warning about it. Now, there is a plant or a group of plants that people will use in the Texas area in general, or at least in my gardening groups, and that's the mistflowers. So the mistflowers are actually not just one plant. There are a bunch of different types. It's kind of like all poodles are dogs, but not all dogs are poodles. And there are ones that go across different species and whole different groups of plants, but the flowers look kind of similar. Let me show you. There's actually a few different ones just right here, and then another one behind you. This one that I'm going to give a little bit of a warning about is Conoclinium coelestinum, as far as I'm aware. And that common name is just kind of blue mist flower. So what you will see when you look at the flowers is that they have all these little kind of tassels coming off of them, and those are the individual flowers actually. Each little head is made up of dozens of little flowers, and they're really great nectaring plants for butterflies, bees, and all the pollinators. But this particular one to me is a little bit problematic. There is a slight story with this one actually. Let me tell it real quick. So most of my mist flowers I have purchased from garden centers and nurseries, but this one I actually found in the wild. I happened to be walking along one of the local parks, and I saw a number of plants there that looked like maybe they had been guerrilla gardened into the area where they were. There were snapdragons. And it looked like somebody had just thrown wildflower seed packets over there. But among them, I found this mist flower. And I don't think it was actually flowering at the time, but I recognized the leaves, and I said, whoa, okay, I pulled it up, and I said, okay, we're going home, and I'm planting you. Well, the first year that I planted this, it did this basically really wild and leggy, unlike this one here that's much more well-behaved and just nice looking. This guy is a little unruly, but that wasn't the main problem that I had with it. The main problem came in the winter of the next year when I was cleaning the garden up, because although this looks nice and lush right now, although a little chaotic, this all will die back to the ground, and it'll be more or less bare and barren from like January till maybe March, when everything starts to really grow back. April and May is when everything looks like nothing happened. Pretty much everything is grown back. But this plant had a sinister warning for me whenever I was digging around and pulling things up to clean. And I suppose before I am able to actually show y'all, because I'm going to pull this one up on camera, I'm going to have to do a little cleaning over here. So I guess I'll just do a little chatting while I clean and talk about some of the plants that I'm pulling up and why. So I've got my trusty tub over here behind me that I use for plants that have seeds that I don't want reseeding. That would be things like this. So I don't worry about these too much. They're not the worst plant in the world. But this is Phyllanthus urinaria, or one of the other Phylanthuses. And this one's a little stressed, so its leaves are closed, but if this will focus, you'll probably recognize this if you grow things at all. It's a very invasive and prolific weedy plant, although it has some benefits, medicinal and otherwise. I should probably do the YouTube thing and say, I am not giving you any medical advice here. But I do try to keep these from going too crazy in the garden. Here's another view of the leaves for one. And then these are the little fruits. The flowers are incredibly tiny. I don't know if you'll see them here, but incredibly tiny. And then they make these little fruits on the undersides of the plant. And that's pretty wild. These will pop up everywhere and anywhere. They really don't mind too much where they're coming up. They're not too picky. So all of these, as I'm pulling them up, go straight into the burn pile container, where I will turn them into ash for the garden, basically. And then I've got grasses and such too. This is another one that it's not flowering right now, but you may recognize this is a dayflower, Comelina species. They have little blue flowers that come out of here in the morning. Some of them, they're here, but they're kind of dried up for the day. And then they've got seeds. So yeah, these guys are also extremely prolific. So this little 3-chambered seed thing there is where the seeds will be. And these pop up all over the place. They're kind of succulent, so they really they grow almost anywhere. I don't always take the whole plant to the burn pit because these are very full of water and they don't burn very well. So if I can just chop most of it up with the mower, that is advantageous for me. Here lately, I've been doing a really great job of burning the burn pit before it gets too crazy and full, but I do want to be careful not to overload it. My neighbors probably don't appreciate all the burning that I do. Oh gosh, you see how bad this Comelina gets. It's really wild. I'm just gonna have to put a lot of this in here for time's sake. Like I said, since I have been managing the burn pit so well, it can handle a little bit more. Yeah, I do most of my weeding and pulling and maintenance by hand. I do sometimes use some tools, but I don't think I will need to bring any of them over here right now. Oh, these Comelina also, by the way, the dayflowers are particularly problematic because they make this huge underground rhizome root system and they don't pull up very easily. What they usually do is this. Yeah, see, I tried to pull it up and instead of pulling up the roots, it just broke right at the ground level. So they are almost never cooperative in being pulled up. I haven't actually gotten over here in a little while to clean this area, so it's pretty rough right now. I can barely walk through here. I definitely can't get the mower through here lately. Look, pieces of metal. I really try to keep the pieces of metal that are hanging around to a minimum, especially here lately. I've been using one of my electric garden tools to do more weeding and such. So I don't want to accidentally mess up the blades on it. Almost getting to where I can pull one of these up and show them to you. Oh, this lantana over here looks lovely. Okay, this is salvia. Don't need this. It doesn't take too long to do these cleanup jobs. I've just been very neglectful this year of some areas in the garden, really a lot of the garden, and I am doing better. I've actually cleaned up so much in the past month. I'm proud of myself. Just kind of pick an area and go at it. Ooh, here we go, another phyllanthus. I got most of them pretty quick. Oh, another name for that phyllanthus, by the way, is chamber bitter. Yeah, it's one of the common names. Okay. getting down to around this ageratum down here. I don't think I mentioned this one, by the way. So I did say that a lot of my ageratums I've purchased, but this one, I'm not sure about this one and where it came from. This one came up via seed, I'm pretty sure, because it popped up outside of the flower bed, and its leaves are a little different than others. I actually thought it might be this one or related to it, but it looks completely different. Its leaves, instead of being mostly shiny, they're very fuzzy and a bit dull, and it just looks different. And the leaves are a different shape than some of the other ageratums. And this one's not an ageratum, in case I'm pretty sure I mentioned. It's conoclinium, so it is a little different. Put you on that side. Okay, I think I can almost get down to this. I'm not sure how many stems of this are coming up from the ground. Let me make sure I'm still recording here. That would be pretty terrible if I wasn't. Okay, yes. 8 minutes of recording. All right. See my little lantana here. This is Gem Pink Opal. Pretty nice lantana, but almost none of the lantanas really appreciate being buried under other plants for extended periods. Still looks pretty happy though. This is like a 3-year plant down here too. Dies to the ground, of course, like most lantanas, and comes back. Okay, so yeah, see, I've got pieces that extend all the way out to here. It's all coming from essentially the same spot though. And that's because, as I'm about to show you, they grow in the most problematic kind of way. I don't know if I can even really pull this up. I'm gonna have to cut part of it. Okay, I'm actually gonna cut the tops off. Now, although I am saying that this plant is kind of problematic and that it scared me in its first year, the way it was growing, I'm also trying to be somewhat open-minded about it. Look how much was under here. I'm thinking, you know, even though this is kind of a potentially aggressive spreader, that it may have a place in the garden somewhere. Just, I might have to be really thoughtful about where I put it. Okay, so I'm going to try to pull this up now. Don't know if it's going to prove my point or not about it. Oh boy. Yeah, I think what I'm seeing here will give you an idea. So, yep. So this is what I saw the first year when this died down to the ground. Essentially, there was a huge mat of these long runners underground. I mean, so thick that they just formed a dense mat. And if I would have let this come up the next year without pulling most of that up, I have a good feeling that this would have really started to take over the whole garden. Not literally, obviously, but it would have spread pretty bad and been pretty thick. And as lanky and leggy as this plant is, I couldn't have that in this area. A lot of times you don't really know what a plant is going to do. So you plant it in an area, and then before you know it, some plants have swallowed an entire area or maybe weren't ready to be placed next to a walkway. This one though, yeah, is one that I'd really have to flesh out a large space for it, because it's just way too much for this little area here. I'm trying to have this area be a little more neat and tidy. I'm not doing very well with that right now, as you may have noticed. I can barely walk through here. Let me move y'all a little bit, see if you can see or not. So, yeah, as we look through here, I can barely get into here anymore. This little ageratum here, you can't even see it, I don't think, that I was showing is really taking up a large part of the walkway. I think I'm going to dig it up and move it. I do like that one, but it is a little bit troublesome. And then I have goldenrod here, which is just starting to flower. Also, there are parts that are, when I look at them, they're alive and they're fine up to a point, and then the top has all started to die, and I'm thinking that this is some kind of little insect that gets into the stems. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I haven't investigated it too far, but you can see here that black spot there. It's a pretty good chance that there's some kind of an insect living inside of there. Insects like that are always a little bit problematic, but I think you all have heard me say before that I am an ecologically focused gardener. That means I'm mostly growing things for the wildlife here. So, you know, it's not such a bad thing if things are eating the plants. It may look a little stressful at first, but in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of what the plants are here for. Now I am going to cut this goldenrod back again because it's getting a little bit too unruly and I'm having trouble walking past it. I would kind of like to grow more of a goldenrod in the future though, because it is really cool looking. And it's also another one of those edible and medicinal plants. Makes an excellent tea, and it's got some, I think, well, I probably shouldn't talk about the medicinal aspects too much because I'm not a trained herbalist or anything, so don't want to be given advice and then it's wrong. Yeah, a lot of the times I will pull a lot of this kind of stuff up by hand. In my garden, it just kind of pulls up really easily, especially the St. Augustine type grass. Once it gets really tall, it just kind of weakens everything underneath it and comes up pretty easily. And I prefer to pull by hand because there's a little less chance of damaging all the plants around it as well. See how fast I get off topic here? I was talking about the mistflowers, and then here we are cleaning up this border. Oh, I pulled up one of my ferns. That's all right. These are super prolific ferns that just kind of, they get everywhere. I did plant them here on purpose, but they are spreading well outside of the bounds of where I originally planted them. That's not a bad thing. But this may not be the best spot for them, I've learned. It gets quite dry during dry periods. And this fern, I have learned, does not really appreciate that very much. Okay. Get this stuff out. So that cleans up a little bit. I actually had to come in here recently and cut these lantanas back a bit too. They're starting to grow back, but I meant to hit them a little bit harder. They just, this one here is Bandana from the Bandana series, pink. And as far as I'm aware, this is one of the few that I did not remember the label very specifically, but yeah. It should be Bandana Pink. I think I've kind of confirmed that through looking at plants at nurseries that do have their labels a couple times. So, but yeah, this one has a very particular growth habit, which is really awesome. Let me make sure it's in full frame here. Okay, so step back a little. So yeah, this one's growth habit, and also frame a little, pan a little to the left because this is the same variety over here, but not flowering as much here in the shade. This one has a wonderful habit of just starting in a place and then spreading very beautifully in a big ball. And it's very consistent in its growth habit like that. It usually is just full of flowers more towards the mid to end part of the year, but super, super reliable lantana. Mostly sterile, although I do see a random couple of fruits here. I do try to grow mostly sterile cultivars because lantanas are invasive in our area, especially the wild one that pops up that looks kind of like this, but I'll talk in another video about why I don't let that one grow, how to identify it, and I guess how to pull it up and get rid of it. But yeah, so I suppose I'll take a little pause from cleaning up over here and chatting about plants and show y'all a few other mist flowers and talk about the differences in them. So in the spirit of just showing this area a little bit better so that you can see what I was working around, this is the lantana bandana pink, super awesome one. This is the little ageratum that I was talking about that popped up here on its own. You can see the flowers. These are also a little bit more neat and tidy than the conoclinium that I was talking about. This is one of the differences that I talk about when I talk about like mist flowers especially, is that the one on the left, the ageratum, just looks more neat and tidy than the conoclinium, and I just prefer it. Sometimes you have to understand that cultivars make a big difference. Like for instance, that lantana there, that cultivar is awesome and it looks like the wild lantana that pops up everywhere in people's yards for free, but it's not that lantana. And the one that pops up for free is the super invasive one, and that one is problematic as heck, so you really don't want to be messing with that one. So another ageratum that's really awesome in the garden this year especially, I've been loving, is this one. So you'll notice the flowers are very similar to that one I just showed. The stems though are not fuzzy, the leaves are shiny, and it's got a different look overall, and it's a much larger plant. I have a few of these now this year, and this is a hybrid actually. I found the plant patent online, but I couldn't find a whole lot of information about what it's hybridized with besides Ageratum houstonianum. This one is a hybrid called Monarch Magic, and I've been growing it for 2 years now. Last year was not quite as impressive though as this year. I'm really loving this plant this year for sure, and it's very easy to propagate. If you look up underneath here, you'll have all kinds of roots, and you can just take these pieces that kind of grow like that as cuttings, and they're very, very easy to transplant around. So we are now traveling to look at a few other ageratums. I didn't realize my gimbal wasn't charged, so I may not be able to do a whole lot of recording here, but this is one of my original houstonianums. And these are the ones that I really fell in love with. If you look at it, you can see that it's a really short, compact plant. It is trailing across the ground, but the flowers are on these cute little stalks that don't come up very far above the plant and just look really nice and compact. But what I realized, and I was trying to, the gimbal is giving me all kinds of trouble because the battery's dying on it. The ageratums, whenever they come back the next year or following years from seeds, they can have all kinds of weird qualities that you may not have intended for them to have. For example, here is a specimen here that, let's say this one. So I was showing that cute little compact one over there and how the flowers just stay really tight to the plant. It's really cute, but then you get ones like this that send the flowers up really high above the plant. And this one still looks okay, but there are other ones that don't look so nice. I've actually pulled a ton of them up, so I don't have a lot of good examples, but here's another one that was growing next to that one. So this one actually does not look half bad. I don't mind this one. I kind of like it. It actually almost looks like it may have hybridized with some of the other ones. This one's pretty cute. I do kind of like how these flowers look. They're in pretty neat little clusters, unlike this one. You see there's just a few little random flowers, and if I go hunting through here, I may be able to find a few more where, like I said, it's just a few little random flowers at the tops, and they're not very compact. They're really leggy, and I just personally don't like the look of them. So, this gimbal, I just personally don't really love the look of them. Now here's another example of the Monarch Magic cultivar. This one is one that I planted here as a cutting in the springtime. I think the one that I showed first was actually a seedling that came up. I'm not sure, but I think so. So again, this is a really nice cultivar, kind of flowers constantly. Last year I had a little bit more trouble with it not wanting to flower, but this year this one has been super consistent with its flowering. And I did try to do an experiment to see if I could get the seeds to grow, because I think I've had seeds come up on their own, but I have not been successful yet. And let's travel over here and show one more Ageratum houstonianum example. Ooh, you know what? There's another one over here actually that I might be able to show. Well, maybe not. It's kind of weak looking and sickly, so maybe I won't show that one. So let's have a look at this one. So this one here is even weirder looking to me. So its flowers are really spread out, but they're kind of a cool color. They've got kind of that ice blue kind of color. It's a little bit lighter looking. This I think is a different plant. So you see it looks a little bit different here. But this one's not half bad looking. I'm actually really interested to see what this one does, what it looks like, because in the end, if you find a cultivar or like a seedling that comes up that you really like, you can take that and propagate it. You can just keep growing that particular one for years and years and years. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. I thought that they would all be the same, and so I wasn't concerning myself too much with like, if they came up from seeds, do I need to weed them out? Now I'm learning that yes, I do need to weed them out, because they do not look the same as the parent plants, like at all. So now we're in the greenhouse. A quick update since I am in here. Like I said, those plants, the Ageratum, all of them really grow from cuttings super easily, but I really like Monarch Magic. This is one that I'm going to plant today, and I only had it in here for like a week, and look at the roots. They're super easy to propagate. I usually just stick them straight in the ground, and I don't worry too much about them having a ton of roots and such. Sorry if I'm making weird pauses. The gimbal is really not cooperating today. Whew. Well, I know that this was a bit of an incoherent rant. I'll try to make a more concise video on the Ageratums later, but for now I just wanted to at least show them and make some kind of a video for you guys. I don't want to go too long without saying hi. So, hello. Look at the weeping willow. It's looking so great. Oof. I am so excited for next year with the weeping willow. I'm gonna get up there and do a little bit more shaping soon. She's looking awesome. Oh, all right. Well, I suppose that's going to be it for today. I'm going to piece this video together and hopefully get it uploaded by the end of the day. Today is Sunday, October 5th, by the way. All right. Thank you guys for joining me on this weird rant today. I'm gonna go clean up the mess that I made over there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.